Hey everybody, Christopher here, and welcome to part 6 of my AI tutorial series as I create the pilot movie for hopefully my animated sci-fi series, Escape from Planet Omega 12. It is the story of Tara, who is the sole survivor of an incident on a spaceship where she has escaped to Omega 12 to survive. She doesn't have anything but a few weapons and her wits, and, well, she's got some companions, but that's a different part of the plot. Anyway, this is part 2 of my environment series where I show you how to take animated AI environments, such as this one, and create controllable depth so we can fake 3D and also create a fake camera so that I can bring Tara into this environment, have her move around, and have the camera follow her, and give the sense that as the camera moves, there is depth and parallax to what we are quote-unquote filming. It's an animated camera. It's a virtual environment, so there's not actually anything that we're filming or videoing. But if you want to have more control over the action, give your audience a sense that your character is moving through an environment with depth, but you're not actually working in 3D. You're just working with AI-generated backgrounds. This one was created using multiple methods: AI, Photoshop compositing, and AI animation. And today we're going to be following how kind of what I did last tutorial with a simple depth map. We're going to make a more complex depth map this time. So, and as you can also see, I'm kind of messing around with, this is a full environment. It's not a 1920 by 1080 HD frame. So anyway, I'm going to explain all of that. But before we get started, please subscribe to the Sci-Exploitation YouTube channel. There's also the Christopher Moonlight Production YouTube channel. I've got 2 of them. Sci-Exploitation is dedicated solely to Escape from Planet Omega 12 and whatever other animated sci-fi I may do in the future under that banner. But the Christopher Moonlight Productions YouTube channel has tutorials, interviews, behind the scenes, stuff about my other movie, The Quantum Terror. If you like interviews with industry professionals, rants, anything to do essentially with filmmaking, independent filmmaking and animation, I have got it on the Christopher Moonlight Production YouTube channel. But primarily what I would like you to do is I would like you to subscribe to the Christopher Moonlight Production Substack. That is where everything goes first. So first it'll be on the Christopher Moonlight Production Substack or the Subscribe Star, although I prefer you subscribe to the Substack because I like the formatting for that better. But you will get exclusive content, uncensored content. Everything goes there first. Then if it's Escape from Planet Omega 12, it goes over to the Sci-Exploitation YouTube channel, and it ends up on the YouTube channel for the Christopher Moonlight Production YouTube channel last. Unless it's something that's not Sci-Exploitation, then it goes on there right after the Christopher Moonlight Production Substack. Anyway, that's enough of that. Oh, yeah, there's also a Rumble. Almost forgot about that. That's new. See how we do there. So let's move on to what we've got going on right now, our tutorial. So what we have here is the full environment. I created this image using Photoshop, and then I ran it through different AIs to refine it. And now I've created that PNG sequence that you just saw. If you don't know how to create a PNG sequence, it's very easy. There are tutorials on it online. But essentially what we have is a frame by frame sequence of PNG images in a single folder that, if run together, they create an animated motion. So anyway, what I've done is I have gone into, what is it? I upscaled it using upscale. And if you are not familiar with upscale, I have another tutorial about it. I think it's the first or second tutorial on this series. I used upscale to generate 3 times the size images output of the PNG sequence. So it goes beyond the general output that you have of, and yes, you can go way up there in how many times you can scale it up, but you don't want to do that. It takes too much memory. But anyway, a lot of video output from things like Kling or Hailua, they are not HD. So we wanted to create a PNG sequence of the video output, and then we wanted to upscale it. Once we upscaled it, we put it back into After Effects, where we have more size control over how we punch in with the camera when we do put it into an HD frame, and I'll show you how to do that. But the other thing that I did was I created, like the last tutorial, a depth map. But I didn't paint in a simple depth map. I used Stable Diffusion to create a sequence of depth maps. So you have an animated depth map, just like I have an animated video, and it's a PNG sequence. So as you can see here, you've got image to image, and then you just use a control net. And by the way, if this is not something you understand, it's a whole other tutorial. So please go and learn about control nets, learn about Stable Diffusion, Automatic 1111, which is what this is. So you have an option to create a control net, and it's a depth. So you just activate that control net, you give it the image, you tell it to do an image-to-image process, and it'll give you an image, but it'll also give you that depth map that you see to the right. And if you have a depth map, you can do, like the last tutorial, you can use the depth map with a displacement map in After Effects to give it the illusion that your camera's kind of like panning around it a little bit. But what we want to do is we want to create that depth map as a PNG sequence. So each depth map has a coinciding frame to the original animation. So we've got the frames for the frames for that, and then we just go in and we paste in, as you can see here, I'm pasting in the folder name for where I want to create the PNG sequence is, and where I want to create a depth map, I just do a little slash at the end, and then I type in that I want to, want it to create a new folder. So it created a folder called depth, where I've got the depth PNG sequence, and now I can generate it, which I'm not doing here because running a recording software and running a PNG sequence at the same time on my video card is not going to happen very quickly. So I already did it. And so I've got the PNG sequence now of the depth map. And, you can click through there, and it doesn't really look like it's moving all that much, but there is depth information there in the water, kind of closer up. And the image does move a little bit, not very much. The video moves a little bit, not very much. So you want the PNG sequence to be able to move with it. Anyway, so you can see there are all the frames. And so let's go and look at how we use it in After Effects. So here we go. Again, I can kind of scrub through it, and you can see it moving a little bit. It's not much. I wanted it to be a static video with rippling water, but it's always going to move a little bit. And could I have done a single image? Maybe. I probably would have had to track it, which would have been its own pain and offered its own problems. So anyway, we've got the original PNG sequence. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring in the, we'll just drop this in here. So we've got the upscaled PNG sequence. That's 3 times upscaled. You can see the size of it there is much bigger. And I think, did I change the frame count? I believe I might have. I can't remember. I recorded this video before I recorded the audio. So I think what I'm doing there is I'm making, I think I'm changing the frame rate, and I think I'm just changing the speed that it plays back at. So I always do 24 frames a second because that's what movies play at. And then I just lengthen the actual clip in the timeline to match. Same thing. What I think I did 6 seconds and 12 frames, 24 frames a second. So that's 6.5 seconds. Boom. There you go. Plays out beautifully. Nice static shot. And then what are we going to do? We're going to take our PNG sequence. Let's see. Let's drag that back to the beginning. Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing here. Going to we're dropping our PNG sequence of our depth map in there, and I'm going to size it up. Now, something that I forgot about, you can see there's a little bit of a discrepancy at the top edge and the bottom edge. Doesn't matter. We've got what we need. And then we're going to just check that it matches, drop it below there, and then we're going to pick whip it so that if I have to move it around for any reason, it moves the depth map with it. So we're going to type in that we want a displacement map, and we're going to drag that into the top layer. Oh, yeah, I forgot to adjust the size there. Or, sorry, the time there. Anyway. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to drop the displacement map plugin or effect in there, and we're going to set it to the layer below the depth map. Just at the top there, just drop that menu down and click for it to follow the depth map. And then we can use those, we want to stretch to fit the comp, the displacement map, because otherwise it's going to see the displacement map as still being that teeny tiny thing. So if you try and use it, you'll just see it affecting the space of the original size of the image, if that makes sense. So anyway, now what we can do is we can adjust using that displacement map. Using these sliders here, we can adjust it from left to right by sliding it back and forth. We can't do it too much. Just like in the last tutorial, if you pull it too far, it gets kind of melty. You start to see repeat edges as well, but we can also affect the up and down. Very nice. And there you go. You know, you stretch it too far, it just gets too bleh, like it's melting, which might be good for like a 90s style melting effect on something. So anyway, now that we've got that, we're going to create a new composition. So we've got, not sure what I'm doing here. So now we're going to create a new composition, 24 frames, 1920 by 1080. And we're going to make sure that the timing is the same. Give it a name. Name it whatever you want. Okay. And now we can take what we created before, the pre-comp before with the depth map, and we can drop it into the timeline. And as you can see, because we scaled it up 3 times, it's much bigger. So that gives us room to start moving things around. So we can go into our sizing, and we can go into our position and see, just start sliding around so we can explore This is what I meant before about framing up your shot any way that you want within a single composition. I can slide that camera around. I can also use the sizing to punch in or punch out, which I'm going to do. And I'm just going to frame up my shot where I want it. And it animates. So we got the rippling water. And then what we can do is we can start keyframing our camera moves. So you see I've already started keyframing here. So this is where we could do this without the depth map, but it would just kind of look like exactly what it is. We are keyframing that particular layer moving around, but it's pretty flat. So what we do is as we are deciding our keyframes, we are then going to go into our comp, our pre-comp, and we're going to start adjusting the displacement. And we can keyframe that to coincide with how we're keyframing the other comp, so that as we move around, the displacement map gives us the illusion that we're getting a little bit of parallax on those rocks. So, you know, as you lower down, the underneath of the rocks would kind of stretch out, giving us the illusion that our camera is moving around the 3D object. I hope that makes sense. And I hope visually you're looking at this, understanding what I'm getting at here. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you some examples of how I use that. Here we have an example of the depth map, and you really can't see it unless I scrub, but this is the same principle where I had the full-size video. You can kind of see a little bit of the displacement map displacing the edges here. But if you look up this mountain, just you can see that it's shifting, it's elongating and shifting to the side. And I have my escape pod here, which is part of the composition. And you'll notice I only have flames coming out of this first one. And that's because if wrong one. I'll show you that one next. If we go over to the comp where I've got the HD frame, you can see that it just cuts off there. We're more punched in on the escape pod, but we're still able to do it in HD. And this is a 3D model with Video Copilot, optical flares, and some jet flames that are AI generated that I comped in and tracked in. So this is still a full composition, and we've got this creature kind of coming up and hitting the side of the pod and water splashing. Again, you can see the water splash asset that I created is that I use Minimax. It splashes up past out of frame, so you got this flat bit. But because I'm punched in, you don't see that. You just see the creature, and you're punched in on that. So that's one example where, again, you don't really see it all that much, but it just adds a little bit more authenticity. We still got the animated water. So I don't know if this will preview without lagging. Oh, it did. Great. So that's one example. And another example is this, where, okay, so this is what we started work on. And I've kind of skipped ahead and jumped in. But if I just scrub through it really quick, you can see my phone. You can see the from here to here. It's subtle, but you can see the displacement map in action as it comes down. And as a result, I'm able to, again, punch in and have a little depth as this escape pod descends past these rocks. Again, it's subtle, and you want it to be subtle. You don't want to give people something to notice. you want them to be in the moment. Let's just let this finish RAM previewing. But again, I created a 3D object, lens flares to give the jets a real sense of heat. Those flames are AI generated and motion tracked in, and this is just a series of comps. But again, when you go into here, that's the original comp, and then I put it, I did it at this extra large size. I used the displacement map, and then I dropped this whole comp into a 1920 by 1080 HD comp where I could control the camera, which is not really a camera. What it really is it's keyframes of the position. So that's it. That's what using these depth maps can do, and I hope you enjoyed these tutorials. I will be back with more tutorials. There's going to be exclusive tutorials on the Christopher Moonlight Production Substack, so be sure to leave a comment, ask me questions, like, subscribe, share, all that good stuff, and we'll see you on the next one. Thanks very much.